It's Rhyan Henson here, the coach of the locker room here on 960 The Fan. Everybody thinks they should be the coach of their team. Stop being an armchair quarterback and get into the game. From noon to 5, Monday through Friday, join me in the locker room. We talk about it all and we don't sugarcoat anything. The NBA, the NFL, boxing. We cover it in the locker room. Every weekday afternoon, I interview all of the biggest athletes, discuss the hottest topics, and of course, give the power to the people and let you call in. Tune in Monday through Friday from noon to 5 here on 960 The Fan.
Let's get ready to rumble! Jordan putting moves on Russell. We're down to 2, now to 1. Here's Jordan.
Burt will turn and hand to Marshall in the draw. Got a hole. He's inside the 10.
Freeze hits it in the air to center. Back at the wall.
Touchdown, Marshall Falk.
Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run.
The Chicago Bulls have won.
Welcome to the locker room. You're now live with the coach, Rhyan Henson.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. We have a lot of topics on discussion for today. But first, we're going to start off with a PED scandal and the biogenesis scandal in the MLB. Their first year of the current drug testing policy in the MLB started in 2003. So far, they've been attempting to crack down on the league. But recently, we all know there's a big biogenesis scandal going on. Former MVPs Alex Rodriguez and Braun, and also other big-name stars, Melky Cabrera, Bartolo Colon, to name a few, Nelson Cruz as well, could possibly be suspended, legacies tarnished, just the works. My issue with this is, as we all know, Braun initially went in, didn't really have much to say the first time he went in and talked to the league, but upon further review, I guess by his counsel, his lawyers, whoever's in his inner circle, he thought it'd be best to cut a deal. My problem with this is that the MLB shouldn't be in the business of cutting deals, especially if they have all this evidence against guys, big name stars, not just the lowly, young guy trying to come up. We're talking about former MVPs, and we're talking about guys who, and especially in Braun and Alex Rodriguez, who have been caught using steroids or admitting steroids, whether Braun is through the testing, that whole situation where systematically he got off, and A-Rod, who came out and admitted it in 2009. The MLB shouldn't be trying to cut deals with these guys. They need to crack down full force and set the example, set the precedence that, if you use these things, if you use steroids, you're going to get caught and you're going to pay the full price, not a 50% off deal or anything like that. It doesn't make sense that he should get off. And, maybe some of these other guys now might not get a deal like Melky Cabrera or a guy like Bartolo Colon, who will be a free agent after the season or potentially after his suspension is fulfilled, or, that'll severely impact his free agency. So, why should he have to pay the full price when a guy like Braun or whoever is gonna get a free pass? The MLB has to realize that he's a part of one of the most egregious scandals in all of sports. Steroids, have just impacted more than baseball. But I mean, in baseball, tarnished a game with so much tradition and pride, going back over 100 years. Guys, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, guys who did it the right way, set these records, set these incredible marks, and now to have them tarnished by some new guys who want to juice up and use the latest technology to enhance their performance, it doesn't make sense. But also, the MLB shouldn't cut a deal with Brian Braun, because after he got off his initial steroid conviction, I guess to say, he walked around with a proud chest. He walked around talking trash in the league, tarnishing the way that everything's tested, telling people publicly and privately that he's innocent and that the MLB did it wrong, making the MLB seem to be the bad guy, when in reality that Braun was just a thief in disguise the entire time. It just doesn't make sense. He deceived everybody. He went behind everybody's back, friends, family, teammates, and more importantly, the fans in the league. Let's take some callers. 960 KKNT. We have Ronald on the line.
Yeah, hello?
Hey, Ronald, how's it going?
Okay.
Tell me what you think about athletes, especially athletes in baseball, who use performance-enhancing drugs.
I don't know. I've always been a competitive person, and I feel like, you compete against other people depending on the sport you play, whether it's as a team or an individual, but you also compete against yourself. I mean, you should expect the best out of yourself, and you should want to test that every time you go out to play whatever that game is. And if you're taking performance-enhancing drugs or other types of stimulants, you're not getting that. It's like the guy that plays in a golf tournament that has multiple classes, and he sandbags the first round, so he gets put in a lower class, and so that he can win something. I mean, to me, you should feel cheated when you do that, because you're cheating the game, you're cheating the competition, you're cheating everybody you're playing against, because they're out there trying their best with what skills they have, and you're taking a shortcut. It's not fair to anyone involved.
Who do you think is being cheated the most? Other players, other fans?
Well, I think really the other players are being cheated. It's hard to say whether it's more than the fan, because the fan is paying good money to come out and see these athletes. But the players on the teams or the competitors are also out there because that's their job, and they're trying to do the best they can. Whether it's a fellow teammate, you're trying to win whatever championship that's involved with your sport. And if you've got somebody that's not playing as a team player, but as an individual who's more interested in what records he can achieve or how much money he can get, then you got to question whether or not he's doing his best for the team itself. And how, you might have some immediate results, but long range, does that hurt the team? Do they come back later on with suspensions or taking away championships, like they've done in some of the NCAA things where
right.
You found out there's some cheating going on of various types.
Okay. Thanks for calling in. We appreciate the call.
All right.
Everybody feels cheated, especially the younger guys trying to come up. It's hard to compete with the experienced veterans as is, but when they're juicing and you're using synthetic products, it just makes it all that much harder for younger players, older players to stay in the game. And, even the guys on equal experience level, when they see their slumps, they'll see their counterparts, equal age, equal talent at one point, continuing to peak. But I think in the case of Braun, the league shouldn't cut deals with them. They should cut the problem off at the head, so to speak. I think, and they should take away. You can't really take away the All-Star Game appearances, but you can take away that 2011 MVP award. If Matt Kemp, who was the runner-up, if he wants it, he should be awarded to him. But if not, it should just go vacated. We got to go to commercial break right here. But when we get back, we have some more cases of steroids and kind of the overall impact of how it's going to go. Hey everybody, before the first Rams game, come meet my friends at Buffalo Wild Wings on September 8th at noon to start the Rams season off right. Half-price appetizers and half-price wings and half-price drinks. So everything on the menu is half-price, but the deal is only exclusive after 12 before the start of the game on September 8th for the first Rams game versus the Arizona Cardinals. We at all the Buffalo Wild Wings locations around the area. Meet me at Buffalo Wild Wings to start the Rams season off right. And we're back here in the locker room with your host, the coach, Rhyan Henson. We're We're talking about performance-enhancing drugs today in the wake of all the biogenesis and the Brian Braun, the Alex Rodriguez scandal. And we were talking about Braun earlier. And we were kind of saying his 2011 MVP should be stripped of him, and about how deal cutting, the MLB shouldn't be in the business of deal cutting, especially in such serious topics such as steroids. I also think that his 65-game suspension, even if it was given to him in a fair deal, it's really advantaging Braun because he's in a lost season. The Brewers are way back in the NL Central. He already missed 20-something games for a thumb injury, so his numbers are going to be down already. You know, it's just letting him off the hook. It's really letting him off the hook and really just giving him a free pass for the season to go sit at home somewhere and get out of a tough season and a would-be tough season. You know, this is the league's chance to make a big bust, but he couldn't. But let's go into previous MLB suspensions because of steroids. Manny Ramirez, as we all know, he's a big-time character in the league. He's making another comeback. He was recently signed to the Rangers AAA division. But as we all know, in 2011, he failed his second drug test, which would be a 100-game suspension. And in 2009, he failed his first drug test, which was 50 games when he was 50 games. So he served his 50-game suspension, came back with Tampa Bay. He was caught early in the season in 2011 with second offense. Second offense by MLB protocol is 100 games. So he abruptly retired. In 2012, he was with the A's affiliation. To get back in the league, he cut a deal with the MLB, and from that 100 games, he was only ordered to serve 50 games of it. And my problem with that is that, you know, Manny was also another big-name star. Easily, the league could have went down, cracked down on him, said, no, you're not getting a deal. Either stay retired or serve your suspension and attempt to come back at an elderly age for the MLB. He's in his 40s now. But going back a few years, back in the 2004 World Series, who Manny Ramirez happened to be the MVP of that series. He played a big role for the Red Sox winning that series over the Cardinals and what was a sweep. And just going back to the stats, in Game 1, Manny drove in 2 RBIs, and the Red Sox won by 2. Now, had Manny, there's no evidence that Manny was on any performance-enhancing drugs at the time, but based on his track record with 2 suspensions, I think there's a good chance he was. So you take Manny out of the game, we're talking about a game in extra innings. Now, the Red Sox may have won with or without him. No one will ever know, but he definitely played an influential impact in Game 1 by giving him the 2-run lead that he needed, that the Bo Sox needed to win the game. And then later on in that series, Game 3, Manny scored once and drove in 3 RBIs. And coincidentally, the Bo Sox beat the Cards by 3 runs. Also, no evidence that he was on steroids at the time or performance-enhancing drugs at the time. But there's always that doubt now that the World Series MVP of that year happened to bring in or be a part of the winning runs for at least 2 games of that series. It's a big coincidence and leaves a big question marks and a big asterisk in my mind next to that World Series. Now, the Red Sox might have won the series, might have even swept them, same outcome, but because performance-enhancing drugs were involved and because it's synthetic supplements were, one player was using synthetic supplements, it's hard to tell whether or not was that Manny being Manny or, performance-enhancing drugs and improving his play. So, that's kind of how my problem is with it, because we're not just talking about regular season games in the middle of August. We're talking about World Series games. This is the game that everybody plays, the series that everybody plays for, and one of the MVPs has been caught twice now using performance-enhancing drugs, and that's why the league just has to take a stiffer stance. And they want to go out and they say that this is great for the league that everybody's getting caught, but in reality, 50%, yeah, it's good, it's great for the league, but let's talk about what they're doing. Yeah, you catch them, but you don't punish them to the full extent, and the problem's not getting solved. I don't think the problem's getting solved the way it should be. Other people in the MLB history, such as Barry Bonds, Rafael Palmeiro, Roger Clemens, a lot of these guys have also been caught. And these are some of the great names that at the time no one really knew. But in the cases, especially in Bonds and Palmeiro, I know, they kind of said they didn't know what was being put into their bodies. They trusted people in their inner circles, and it came out that, or there's strong suspicions that they had used performance-enhancing drugs, and that's not really an excuse either. Just like it says in the law, ignorance is not an excuse for being unlawful or abiding by the rules. So, I mean, if you get pulled over get pulled over doing 75 and a 60, you can't tell the police officer, I didn't know the speed limit, I didn't know the rules. That's not an excuse. You're still going to get that ticket. You're still going to get the fine. And I think the same way should be applied to, the guys who use that as an excuse. This applies outside of baseball as well. Jamaican sprinters Asafa Powell and Tyson Gay have recently been caught using performance-enhancing drugs. These are two former world record holders for the 100-meter dashes. Tyson Gay is the face of USA track and field right now. Asafa Powell was the former face, but I mean, he's still the number 2 man behind Usain Bolt. And these guys are, coming out getting caught saying, "Oh, we didn't know. It's not our fault." They should take full responsibility, because you just can't pass the buck on to one of your associates who no one knows outside of you, and that's just not an excuse. But beyond all the deal cutting and all the steroids, leagues around the world, not just baseball, not just track, just every sport in general should crack down on steroids, because it's setting the wrong precedents for the younger generations, younger kids, especially in high school, kind of when people start reaching maturity and they see their athletic peaks come and they kind of see where they're heading athletically. They see the role models cheating, using steroids, and they're going to want to as well. So if we crack down on it at the upper levels, the younger generations won't be inclined to do it as much. And we'll get back to more of the overall impact steroids have, especially on the younger levels. We'll get back to that right after the break right here. Hey, it's the coach, Rhyan Henson, your host of The Locker Room here on 960 The Fan. We all know food is a big part in sports. Athletes have to refuel, and fans, well, you all have to tailgate. No matter what your role, I have a special offer for the whole team. For this upcoming football season at exclusive Subways in the area, I have drawn up a special play. Anyone who mentions my name, the coach Rhyan Henson, or the show, The Locker Room, at Subway on Fridays, Saturdays, or Sundays during the upcoming season can get a 25% discount. That's right, 25% off of everything. Spend $100 or spend a dime. Drop my name, the coach, Rhyan Henson, host of the best sports show in the city, and save money. But wait, that's not it. Each month of football season, I will have what I call an MVP giveaway. I will select one random person who takes advantage of the deal and give them 4 tickets for the next Rams game. Everyone wins. Cheap food and a chance to win 4 tickets to a football game. It's the best play in the playbook. Next time at your Subway, mention me, the coach, Rhyan Henson, host of The Locker Room here on 960 The Fan. And we're back live in the locker room with Coach Rhyan Henson right here on 960. Before we were been talking all day about the PED scandals, and we're talking about steroids, and now we're talking about how they kind of affect the younger generations. I'm just going to read off a few stats that I have. According to a report by CBS in 2009, approximately 672,000 students, high school athletes, admitted to using steroids. So you can only imagine that number is probably bigger, and not only is this affecting students' bodies because, steroids, they severely damage the liver, other internal organs, but more importantly, they have a severe mental side effects. And we're talking about, of that 672,000 100,000 athletes. I mean, that's only a small percentage of 2.2, according to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. It's only about 2.2 to 6.1% of high school athletes. But when we're talking about kids, the population is growing, so more and more kids and families are being impacted. So all of these, the physical effects of steroids are physically damning, but more importantly is the mental. And many of these kids are, when you get off steroids, you go through phases, and a big one is depression, and many times it leads to suicide. And that's not on the high school level. That's on all levels of steroids. So because of the hormonal disbalance in the body, according to reports by several trusted medical affiliates such as Centers of Disease and Control, the hormonal change will lead to these things, and mentally, and that's why you hear the term roid rage. That's why people get angry, because their just emotions are out of whack. And when we're dealing with teenagers and bodies that are still maturing and developing, it's extremely, extremely harmful. So I think that's why the MLB and other professional leagues need to crack down hard. Err on the side of overreacting instead of underreacting to rid this problem out of sports in general. But now let's mix it up a little bit. Let's talk a little bit of football, talk something a little bit lighter. Everybody knows the NFL season is coming up. Training camp is about to report, and our St. Louis Rams are about to go back into battle. I think everybody noticed we're not the St. Louis Scrams anymore. We did a pretty good job last year. Let me note a couple things. We weren't a playoff team last year, but I will note that we did have the best record of division. The Rams were 4-0 versus Seahawks and the Cardinals, and we did split the series with the NFC champions, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Rams could have easily won that game. Rams could have easily won that game too by giving up a fourth quarter lead, which led to that tie. Well, excuse me, they didn't split. They had one win and one tie. So I mean, had they held on to that lead in the fourth quarter, we're sitting here talking about an undefeated Rams team in division beating two good playoff teams in the Seahawks and the 49ers. But since we were not a playoff team, we were third place in the division because, simply we couldn't win a game out of division. We lost some pretty embarrassing games, to non-division opponents that we easily could have won, especially with the caliber team of the Seahawks and the 49ers were. That gave us a third-place schedule. So that'll be very good for the Rams because we're definitely better than the third-place team, but we're going to play with a little bit of a watered-down – the Rams will play with a little bit of a watered-down schedule. Therefore, you expect them to do big things this year and expect them to really jump up on the radar and make this NFC West very competitive next year. It's going to be the Wild Wild West, to say the least. Out of the draft, the Rams got what many call a steal and picking up Tavon Austin. Now, all his skill set, coming out the draft was great. I think one thing that held him back from a couple people was that he's a little bit small. He's a 5'8", about 174 pounds according to the official roster. But I think with his skills and a more of a smaller guy like that to replace Danny Amendola, who was also a little bit undersized, I think he's going to fit in just fine. Reports coming out of camp that he hasn't dropped the ball yet, so that's looking very promising. And also with kind of a younger, we got younger and we got fast on offense, which means we can do some more dynamic, different things. And the way the game is evolving now, look at Oregon. They do it all. They do everything and anything under the sun offensively. So I could potentially see the Rams using Tavon Austin, handing the ball off to him, using him as some option. I think the Rams can do a lot of stuff with them offensively. But we also got a big tight end, Cook. He's about 5'5". He had 44 receptions last year and 4 TDs. He's about 6'5", with 44 receptions and 4 TDs last year. Other players, Stephen Bailey, also played in West Virginia with Tavon Austin. Givens had proved he was a deep threat last year. And Quick last year, he had 11 receptions, 156 yards, 2 TDs. I think he'll step up as well. The Rams are returning 5 offensive starters, And the Rams, we lost Steven Jackson, but I think he'll he's a good player. I wish him the best, but I think Daryl Richardson, Zach Stacy from Vanderbilt will pick up that load, and they'll definitely carry the ball. They'll definitely carry the ball the way Steven Jackson did in his prime. But the big problem last year was offensive line. And I think the Rams really went out and shored it up. We moved Roger Saffold over back to the right at right tackle. We picked up Barrett Jones from Alabama. He played, I think, he's a very intelligent guy. He was very intelligent, got academic accolades at Alabama, and he also played, at least 4 out of the 5 positions on offensive line. He's definitely there. He was definitely a staple on their offensive line. And now, if you look at the guys came out of Alabama, that's a NFL offensive line to say the least. So, and he's backing up some of our players, so he adds a lot of youth and a lot of skill on the line. But more importantly, we got Jake Long at left tackle. So there's really no excuse for Sam Bradford this year to not produce. He has all the offensive talent. He has the protection. He has the young running backs, and he has the momentum. But more importantly than that, he's got a great defense behind him. I think the 2 cornerbacks, Cortland Finnegan and Janoris Jenkins, combined last year for 7 interceptions and 22 pass breakups and a forced fumble. Really, really good cornerbacks. And Cortland Finnegan's backup, Trumaine Johnson, is being groomed to take over for him. The returning 8 starters. The linebacking core got way better. Everybody knows about James Laurinaitis and the great things he done. Now Dunbar has stepped up as a strong side outside linebacker, and Alex Ogletree from Georgia is expected to step up and fill those roles. Defensive line, Chris Long, Robert Quinn, and Brockers and Langford in the middle are going to step up big time. Defense is returning 8 starters. Offense is returning 5, and everybody knows about Legatron, the kicker, and he's going to produce well. That's the final round, and as we close out the show here today, I think the MLB needs to take a harder stance. They need to remember that it's not about today; it's about the past, and it's about the younger generation coming up. And steroids is a big problem that needs to be handled today for the better of the game. And everybody look forward to your St. Louis Rams. Expect big things out of them. They will be here to play in 2013 season. Have a good afternoon, everybody. We're leaving the locker room live with the coach, Rhyan Henson, here on 960.